Hey everyone, welcome to Ibato kay Doc Bato Unmasked Edition. Today, let's talk about something crucial but often misunderstood: deficit fluid therapy in kids. When we think about dehydration, we often focus on water loss. But here's the real deal: it's not just about water, it's also about sodium. And getting that balance right is the key to proper rehydration. When a child loses fluids, they're not just losing water, they're also losing sodium, and that has a big impact on circulation. We usually think of shock as a danger zone, but the truth is dehydration starts affecting the body way before that. Mild dehydration, around 3 to 5% fluid loss, doesn't seem too alarming. The child might just be a little thirsty and their urine output goes down. But once they reach moderate dehydration, somewhere between 6 to 10%, things start changing. Their heart rate speeds up, their eyes look sunken, and if you check, they might even have postural hypotension. Now, if dehydration gets worse beyond 10%, that's when we hit the danger zone. Hypotension sets in and things can get critical real fast. Here's something really important. When we give a fluid bolus, we're only replacing about 5% of the total fluid deficit. So even after we reverse shock, the job isn't done. We still have to correct the remaining 2 to 10% of fluid loss, especially in moderate to severe dehydration. Otherwise, we're just treating the crisis, not fixing the whole problem. Not all dehydration is the same. The most common type is isonatremic dehydration, where sodium levels stay normal. These kids usually show mild irritability and reduced urine output. Then there's hypernatremic dehydration, where sodium is high. This one is tricky because even though the child may be severely dehydrated, they might still look alert. They're thirsty, but they don't always appear to be in shock. And then we have hyponatremic dehydration, the most dangerous type. These kids have poor skin turgor, they're lethargic, and they are at high risk for shock. Here's a clinical pearl. Hypernatremic dehydration is sneaky. Just because a child has normal blood pressure doesn't mean they're okay. You've got to look beyond the numbers. It's not just about how much fluid a child takes in, it's also how much they lose. Kids don't just lose water through diarrhea, they also lose it through breathing, fever, and sweating. And these insensible losses can add up quickly. Take a look at this table. See how different factors affect water loss? Now here's something interesting. If you put a child on humidified oxygen or sedate them, their water loss actually decreases. That's why we can't just follow a one-size-fits-all fluid plan. Every case needs to be managed carefully. Now, the big question: when do we give IV fluids? If a child can drink, always try oral first. But if they can't, then we go IV. And here's where things get tricky: choosing the right solution. This approach is only for isonatremic volume loss. The goal is pretty straightforward. First, restore circulation using plain isotonic fluids. This is the immediate priority. Then hydrate over 24 hours, but how you divide the fluid matters. In the first 8 hours, give half of the deficit plus 1/3 of maintenance. In the next 16 hours, give the rest of the deficit plus 2/3 of maintenance. Now, let's be honest. Computing for water and sodium needs can quite be cumbersome. But in most instances, the numbers will point to D5.45 NaCl or half saline as the fluid of choice because it balances both the water and sodium needs for both the deficit and maintenance requirements. And of course, monitor serum sodium and urine sodium at 8 and 24 hours to ensure that the fluid therapy stays on track. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends isotonic IV fluids for most hospitalized children to prevent hyponatremia, except for neonates and those with heart, kidney, or burn conditions. However, some interpret this as using D5NR for maintenance and 0.9% NaCl for deficit replacement separately, especially in patients with moderate to severe volume loss. This approach can double the sodium load and lead to fluid overload, which we are already seeing in some children at the emergency room. Our pediatric society allows both half isotonic and full isotonic fluids based on clinical needs. This flexibility helps prevent both sodium overload and SIADH. Since deficit therapy is about sodium balance, we must carefully interpret the AAP recommendations and tailor fluid management to each child's specific needs. Once fluids are running, we need to monitor and adjust. Here's how we do it. If the serum sodium is high but urine sodium is low, increase the IV fluids. If both serum and urine sodium are low, hold IV fluids and reassess volume depletion. If serum sodium is low but urine sodium is high, reduce IV rate. This could be SIADH. This is where we fine-tune treatment to avoid overcorrection, electrolyte imbalances, or worsening dehydration. And that's a wrap. Fluid therapy isn't just about volume. It's a sodium game too. Choosing the right IV fluid and adjusting based on lab monitoring is what makes the difference. If you found this helpful, like, subscribe, and drop your questions in the comments. See you in the next episode of Ibato kay Doc Bato.